has been with us. He's a designer. I mean, hardcore, full-on landscape designers. He can actually do a plant overlay, irrigation overlay, fences, patios, how many square footage you're going to need. He can do the whole thing. And of course, he's a plant nerd. Yep. That's why I like him. So Richard and I said, you know, Richard, I got to teach this really, really technical thing. Would you mind coming and helping him? So we're going to tag team. We're going to go deep into technicals. I mean, hydraulics are a challenge, especially when you're dealing with hills. I mean, you got at the bottom of the hill, it's going to be more pressure per square inch than the top. Again, as I brought my box, you all need an irrigation box. This is a cleaning thing Lisa was going to throw away, and I said she wanted a bigger one for more whatever, her brushes. I went, can I have that? That's the perfect thing for all my irrigation stuff, and I just dig through, and it's just miscellaneous parts. Every one of you needs one of these and one of these. You have to have these two things. This is a cutter, cuts the pipes really slick and neat. And then I really like the colored ones. Sometimes you'll see these in black. Don't buy black. Because you will put this thing down the ground and you go, where is it? You'll lose it. You'll spend more time looking for it. Because you're putting these systems together, you want a bright color so you can see it out in the yard. The other one is a punch. I like this punch. There's all kinds of punches out there. This is what puts a hole in the distribution line and allows you to put the 1/4-inch spaghetti tubing into the main distribution line. We'll show you that in just a second.
Don't use a nail.
No, don't use a nail. You'll go right through and you'll spin more holes, but just some advice. School of Hard Knocks I'm sharing for you. I like this one. I've got a little arthritis starting to show up my back and hands and stuff, and I don't have the strength I used to. This one goes right in the palm of my hands and I get more force on it. It just makes it easier. And this particular one takes a little piece of plastic out of the distribution line so that you can actually get that barb in there easier. Again, it's big, it's red, and it's easy to use. So there's certain reasons we're using the parts that we have. You'll go down to Depot or True Value or any of these places, they got 30 feet of trip parts. It's ridiculous. How do you know what to start with? We're just curating the easiest ones to go with and the better quality, because that's kind of what we're noted for. With that being said, we mainly focus on this Rainbird drip system. I like this manufacturer. I like Rainbird. I like this part mainly because we call the main distribution line 1/2 inch. Well, show us what a 1/2 inch is. What's a piece of 1/2 inch, will you? I think it's right there. I brought my extras. 1/2 inch is not truly 1/2 inch. It's 0.52, 0.62, 0.64, 0.7, 0.72. They're all considered 1/2 inch. It depends on which manufacturer is printing that or manufacturing that. So none of them are truly 1/2 inch. So you'll say it's a 1/2 inch line. The box stores are still selling the smaller one. They're going for price point. So you don't get quite as much flow, thinner walled. We're selling this one, which is a heavier gauged commercial. This is what the contractors use. It actually is more UV stabilized. Some of them have, the sun breaks them down so they start to crack and have issues. We're actually going with the ones that have more, that'll last longer, basically. Again, quality, you're coming here for quality, so we're trying to deliver on that. We specifically go for that variety, and then these parts that we sell, this will cover, I don't know how they do this, but it will go over any size 1/2 inch you've got in your yard. If you're going with a repair kit, you took a shovel and you went, oops. You're not truly gardening unless you've actually severed your irrigation system. So that's what I determined. I don't know, it seems like I'm always cutting it. You need to bring a coupler together. Well, now you can come over to Waters and get the coupler and put it together. You know it's gonna fit your pipe instead of going, oh, I got the wrong one. Oh, that's the 0.52, that's a 0.7. So it's multi-diametered and still watertight. That's the reason we're going with specifically why we curated that part mix. That makes sense. So that's just why.
There's nothing worse than going and grabbing a fitting and then you go to put it together and you discover that this fitting doesn't go with that pipe. Yeah. It's close but no cigar, and so you have to go back to the store and get a different one. So with this one you can use multiple different lines and still get it to coupler together.
And we're not the place that you're going to put a whole new system in. We're the place you're going to add on to your drip system. We're purposely curating to that. We actually help more ladies than we do guys. Guys, you know, they think they got it, so they think they got it. So we try to help them with it. We're there right on with the gals going, I don't know, show me how to do this one. Easy, let's just show you how to do this. We put it together. Now you can extend another system out to your pots, or if you're traveling to RB, you want your vegetable garden to keep going, we will help you kind of add to that. Or if you make a mistake, you cut it, we can help you bring it back together, or add drip lines, add more emitter heads. That's kind of our niche in the marketplace. That's what we're trying to cover for our customers, okay? If you need a full-on system, call a contractor. Or you go to the big parts kind of stuff. We can put one together, but anyway, I don't want to carry the clocks, the valves, and the solenoids, and I don't want all that. I just want plants and things that make plants grow. That's our niche. So whenever the buyers go, Ken, we should have this, I'm going, is it a plant? Does it make plants grow? If it doesn't fit that model, we don't sell it. So that's kind of us, who we're at. Yeah, let's cover that. It's a good idea. So you want to go over that, the clock and the manifold piece?
All right. So if you're planning on being gone at any point, you know, going on a trip or something, it's nice to put some type of timer or clock on the front end of your system so that when you're gone, it's going to continue and water your stuff for you. These things aren't foolproof, but they certainly do the job in most cases. Just a lot of times the biggest deal on this is just figuring out how to set the clock. So.
We'll go over that in a second. That's good.
But basically you're tying right into a hose bib, and it's always good to at least put a Y on there so that you still have access to the hose whenever you need to drag the hose out real quick and do some spot watering or something like that. Then you want to put something in with the clock. This has got a filter here, and this one has a regulator on it.
It's got the regulator, it's got filter and regulator both.
Yeah, so you're not, with the regulator, so you're not blowing, emitters off the ends and stuff with too high of pressure and everything. And filtering with the emitters that we're selling, you need like at least 100 mesh stream, but this will keep the debris out of your emitters and stuff so that you're not clogging them up all the time and everything. And you want to just check this, maybe every few months. Just depends on your water system that you're getting your water. If the city water guys are working on a line down the road from you, a lot of times they're always going to get debris in your line, and this will catch it so that you're not clogging up everything and having to flush your line all the time.
You'll be frightened with how much stuff is filtered out of your water. It's actually scary. Excuse me. So the orifice on the drip emitter is very small. This is a 2 gallon per hour drip emitter. It needs to run for an hour to get just 2 gallons of water out there. So it's not high flow by any means. And so the orifice is so small, just dripping, super efficient, that if you don't filter your water, a little piece of grit can clog this right up, and all of a sudden, it's not working. So you do need a filter on your drip system. I can't emphasize that enough. If you don't, this will clog up, and come June, the plant will die. Now, I'm okay with that, because I sell plants for a living, but you're my friends. I'd rather have the plants live, and so that's a little secret. Make sure the filter's on there. I don't, and you should check it every few months. I'm lucky to check it once a year. I just flush it out, and I clean out the filters kind of stuff. Every time we put a drip system on, we put a filter in. And you cannot run at house pressure. Your house is typically about 50 pounds per square inch, 45 to 65, somewhere in there. These systems are not made to use glue, tape, or anything. It's got a little barb on it. It's made just to poke a hole, stick it in. It stays. It only does that under low pressure. So you need to be under 30 pounds per square inch. You need to cut that house pressure in half or lower. I've got it down to 10, 15 pounds per square inch. If you don't lower if your system is blowing off emitter heads, that's because more than likely, I'd go to Vegas on this, you don't have a pressure reducing valve So the pressure is so high in the spaghetti tubing that it's blowing off the end of this emitter down. So those are just kind of some insider tips, some basic 101 advice.
That's not the only thing as far as with the pressure regulator. There's a little membrane in here, and if you have high pressure and you're on, off all the time, it wears it out, and it makes the life of these a lot shorter.
I did not know that. That's interesting. Oh, I learned even I learned something. Okay, that's good. So what that, let me see that emitter heading there. I'll just show them. This is called spaghetti tubing. So well, let's go over this. This is just meant, your hose bib goes right here. Clock, battery operated clock. You can set it, come on however much you want. This has got a filter and a pressure reducing valve all combined. And then this is where your half-inch distribution line goes into. And you take it out around the patio, out to vegetable garden, out to raised beds, out to new tree line, whatever. So we've pre-made some manifolds. This is called a manifold. Most of you are going to have this in the ground. You'll see out in your yard a box in the ground with a lid. And in there, there'll be anywhere from 1 to, I've got 8 of these coming off my manifold. That's the actual technical name the contractors use. So how many valves you got in your manifold? Oh, I've got 3 of them. Good. So now you can talk the lingo. That's right. So that box is in the ground, so it's not seen, and secondly, so it's insulated, so it doesn't freeze or have issues. So we don't want big pieces of hardware sitting around out in the yard because you'll stumble upon its liability issues. And then the ground actually insulates that so it doesn't freeze at night. If you've got to replace this is extremely expensive. So if my manifold were to break, I'd probably have to replace all 8 valves. If the main line this way broke, I'd have to go re-glue it all back together. It would cost me $500, easy, to replace that. So you don't want that to freeze. We want it protected. What I do in the winter is I'll take a Ziploc bag and I fill it with insulation, like household pink, that pink fluffy stuff, and I just throw that on top of the box, on top of the valves, in the ground. I'll just lay it on top. Just in case, some years, about every 10, 12 years, we'll have a sub-zero winter. It's pretty freakish, doesn't last for long, but man, it is bitter cold and the ground freezes. And I've seen these things break. So again, it's expensive. When it breaks, you're gonna have a plumber's bill, or you're gonna be out there for all day. It's a weekend project, get it back online. So that's something I do. And then in the fall of the year, in fact, my bags are still on my irrigation box in the ground, that cover. I'll buy whatever products I'm going to use in the spring, so my manures, mulch, shredded bark, I'll buy that bag and I throw it on top of my irrigation box. So now I've got this much extra dirt on top of the box, and I've never once had the valve break or freeze. I've had neighbors do that. That's just some real easy, quick. You're not going to read that on the internet or anything. It's this kind of school of hard knocks. What I've seen over the years really has been a game changer. You know you're going to use some organics in the spring anyway. Get a bag of potting soil, throw it on top of there. Ours are dirt colored. They're like farmer's tan or beige. I put it with the label down, so I don't want to see my logo looking at me out in the garden. I put it down so it's kind of blends in, so I don't see it. And I do that here at the garden center as well. That's some tricks that will really help you.
Can you blow those out?
She said, "Can you blow these out?"
Yes, you can.
So maybe we should cover that. Now you had a lot of experience in the White Mountains.
Yep.
There you blew it out a lot.
Depends on the systems that we used to put in. We would put a port, we would put a shut-off valve for everything, and then just past that we would put a port where you could hook a compressor to it, and then you just run your clock or valves, and you run everything until you run all the water out of it, and it clears them so that you don't have anything freeze because it's completely void of any water and stuff. A lot of times, the valve before, if you put a stop and waste valve, then it even does an extra layer of coverage and stuff, protection and stuff.
We generally don't do that here. You won't find that on your system. That's more Flagstaff, White Mountains, the 6,000 plus above levels. Williams, you'll start doing that. Here, our ground doesn't really freeze. I mean, it froze maybe an inch this year. It just wasn't, we picked right through it and kept planting. So it never even stopped us. So up there, they're gonna get a foot frost line. We're just a solid ice for a foot or more. And so our code is all irrigation, not really irrigation, all your water line, gas lines need to be at 18 inches or below. And so that's where the frost line's at 18 inches. They want that below the frost line. We really don't do that. So here with drip systems, I barely scratch the earth open so that I can get, and then I bury it just with a little bit of soil so that I can get to it and repair it easier. So I can add a drip emitter to there when I want to. I want to have easy access for repair and additions for myself. When I'm trenching across the yard, I'll try to throw as many lines as I can in. So I'll throw, like I've got 8 lines, 8 valves. So I want my containers on a separate valve, my flowers on a separate valve, my thyme lawn on a separate valve, my trees on a separate valve, the backyard vegetable garden on a separate valve. We got everything separated. So I can now isolate and be more in tune. I can actually be more efficient with my watering. My plants are happier. Some of you poor souls, you were given 1 valve, and now you're trying to run the entire landscape on 1 clock, 1 valve. That's a hard one, because your trees are going to be overwatered. They don't like that much water that frequently. Or your flowers will be dry. They'll be starved because you're watering your trees and you're not watering often enough for the flowers. So you can never quite get the balance right, because clocks are about frequency. How often do I need to water? Not as much how long, it's how much. How often do I need to cycle that thing on? We'll go over that here in detail. Richard, I put together our magic crayon formula. We'll go over that. So.
One other quick thing, if you're doing the hose bib or hose faucet system, you want to take this part off and take the hose part off. Take this one and get all the water out of it and take it inside.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
In the winter.
Does it
Yeah.
come off easy enough to get
Yes.
it off?
Yes, super easy.
Because I
Yeah.
put covers over my exterior faucets.
Right, yeah. You want to take this off and bring it inside.
So that battery operated clock, that's about a $50, $70 part, depending on which clock you're doing. And if water freezes inside that and expands, it'll break that clock apart. And so now you gotta go back and replace it. You wanna pull that by Halloween.
So are you taking off the whole system, or are you only taking off?
Just this part, just this part.
That whole system?
Yeah. And the rest of it, your drip line and stuff, it's poly, it's flexible, it's not gonna bust.
What about using automatic drain valves?
Yeah, you can use those.
Yeah,
Well,
automatic
but
drain valves
still-
are great.
That's still, you're gonna get water that's gonna be in little pockets in this stuff. And I mean, you've got this where it lies off right here. You've got, it depends on the angle that it's at and everything. There's a good chance you're gonna have pockets. That's why when you take it off, you go like this and turn it different directions to get all the water out of it. So.
Where I have issues in winter, so I'll go out, I'll explain, maybe just cover that, how to actually check your system. Here's how you tune up your system. You ready? I'll run the clock manually, and I'll just run it through its whole cycle. Then, here's the secret. Do it a second time. Double run the cycle, so now you'll start to really see water pockets. If you run it once, you might miss the water spot. They'll start dripping. You start to see where the water is. If I run it twice, it's much easier to walk the yard, and I can see where those water spots are. Now I'm going to go through and go, oh, that plant's got water, oh, that plant's got water, oh, that plant, wait a minute. There's no water spot underneath this. What's going on? It's clogged up, or it's gotten buried, or something happened. Also, I'll try to walk the yard while that second time running through the clock, the second system, I'll run through again, because that's when while it's running, you can see which ones the gophers have eaten off, the pack rats have taken the ends, the rabbits have chewed on, the javelina have ripped up. The things happen in winter. It's been 4 months since it's run. You want to walk through and see where the spray, and if you get a 1/4 inch spaghetti tubing, if it's just free flowing out the line with no emitter, is 25 gallons per hour. That's the average flow rate. Well, that's like a stream to Niagara. It's like you can see it. You can see it physically running. So I want to know that, because that's not very efficient. That'll drown my plants and it's a waste of water. So those are things that will quickly help you tune up your yard. That I find, I don't drain my system ever. In fact, I run my system in winter, the water in winter. I find I have an issue with some of my elbows. That's where I have the T's. They never really crack. My couplers don't crack. The main distribution line doesn't crack. But water, sometimes in certain parts of my yard, they settle right here, and then the water expands and freezes, and it cracks these. So I'll probably have to replace. I know it's very, very easy. It's just clip it off, put a new one in. And it's $1.99 part. It's not like it's a big deal, but that's the only time I've really had an issue with my bigger distribution lines. Sometimes my spaghetti tubing, where that tube emitter goes on, if I just run it and it froze and the water expands, sometimes it'll pop the emitter head off. And so I'll have to watch that. So if you want to walk the yard, just tune it up. Before you go on a trip, a long trip across country, you take your car to the mechanic, have the oil change, you tune it up. You want to do the same thing as you bring your system back online for the spring. You want to cover backflow preventers? Some of these folks have black backflows and some don't.
Okay, so on, if you have, especially if you have an irrigation system installed, they are required to put a backflow preventer on the front end of the system. This thing, it protects the city water supply or whatever water company you're using for your water, for your house and everything. They're usually, by code, they're supposed to be, depends on, well, I guess, whether you have a double check or there's a bunch of technical stuff. But mostly, regular backflow preventers are supposed to be a foot above the ground, and they're supposed to be above any sprinkler head or emitter that's out in the ground. They're supposed to be on the high end of your system. That don't always happen. And they are always the most vulnerable for freezing in the wintertime as well. A lot of times they're made of copper and brass, and they do not expand one bit when you get frozen water inside them, and it's very costly to get those repaired and stuff. So you want, if you are going to run your system year-round, you want to make sure you have some type of a hot box or something around it to protect it, to keep it from freezing and stuff in the wintertime.
That's that bag you'll see sometimes in the yard. You drive through, there's a cheesy looking like pillowcase over top of it. That's the backflow preventer. They're using that as a insulation. That'll take you down to single digits or so, something like that. If we go below single digits, down to 0, cold permeates the entire bag, and that's when you start to see damage. Really protect that. If you're seeing that, you do want to blow that out or put heat tape on or all kinds of stuff to protect that. You don't want to replace that very often, because that's really expensive. That whole part, the part alone was like $150. You need a plumber to put it in unless you're really handy. So we're deep into backflows, but I do not have a backflow. I'm supposed to legally, but I put the system in myself, and I do not want a backflow. I don't want that. And what that does is, if there's a reduction of water pressure for the city, it'll keep the water that's in your irrigation system from going back into the water supply and being reused later. I don't know why they don't put it in the ground. I don't know. We should change the code on that. This is ridiculous. Anyway, okay. So where are we at? You want to put together a quick system or throw?
We have some different.
Oh yeah, so that's a good idea. Yeah.
So where's our other one?
I think I put it back in the box. You talk about that.
Okay.
I'll pull
So we have a few different systems. This particular drip line and stuff. You can bury this under the ground. You can make a ring of it, put it around your trees or your shrubs. Or this stuff is also great for gardens and stuff because you can, put it on the top of the ground. You can roll it right back up when if you're going to rototill or break the ground and everything. And then as soon as you get your rows all set back up, just roll it right back out, and works great for your garden and everything. The one thing about these is these are not pressure compensating, and these other little emitters is. This one here, which means that you will tendency to have, so you don't want too long of a run. because you will tend to see you have more water on the front end and less water on the back end and stuff. So you just got to make sure when you put those together that you're not just doing super long runs and weaving around through your whole house, or you'll have the first 10 plants will have lots of water and the rest of them won't have any at all.
This has got an emitter every 1 foot embedded into the soaker, into the 1/4 inch line spaghetti tube. It's called soaker hose. I like that one better than the crushed rubber variety. I find it's more consistent and you get a longer run than you could with, and it lasts longer in the sun. That's the reason we chose that specific soaker hose over others. I've gotten up to about 25 feet. Let's say long potato runs or strawberries. I use this in the vegetable garden. Certain areas I'll use this. Over 25 feet, and it's got to be pretty flat ground. It doesn't, just what Richard said, there's nothing running out after 25 feet. So but before that, you just run it out, plug it up at the end or bend it over, and now every foot you'll see a 1 gallon per hour emitter head starting to drip water, okay? We chose this specific emitter head. We only sell one type of emitter head. It's pressure compensated, like Richard was saying. It's got a clean out orifice in it, so it actually, as water goes through it, it helps clean itself out, which is unusual for an emitter head, so we chose a better one. And I personally, you'll see down there, there's a 1/2 gallon, 1 gallon, and 2 gallon per hour emitter heads. There's 3 flow rates. In other words, the orifice, the size of the hole, there's 3 different sizes. This is just me. My name's Kevin. We're friends. We're like neighbors talking over the fence. This is kind of what I do myself. I personally like 2 gallon per hour because I find I have less maintenance issues with them. So the ones in the 1/2 gallons clog up so easy. I mean, a snail lays its eggs in the tip of that thing. It's just clogged up. Anything happens, it clogs up. I like 2 gallon per hour, so my entire yard is nothing but 2 gallon per hour emitter heads with these self-compensating and pressure compensating emitter head. In other words, this emitter is more true to its rating, 2 gallons per hour. At the bottom of the hill, it'll be 2 gallons. At the top of the hill, it'll be 2 gallons. It'll be the flow will be exactly the same or pretty close throughout the yard. A lot of emitter heads, in fact, most of them are non-pressure compensating. That is, they don't have that valve in there that helps it to be more true to its rating. So at the bottom of the hill, it's flowing like crazy. At the top of the hill, it's just barely dripping. So you can't get any, it's like Jello sometimes. You plug it up over here, that flows more over here. You're always trying to move it around. You kind of want one that you just know. You need a variable you can just know. And so to have one that's true to its emitter head, and then it's self-cleaning, that's like so that's what you'll see down there. And you'll see 3 different flow rates. What I do is, for a tree, trees need more water than a little flower, right? I mean, that's common sense. You gardeners, you know that. What I'll do is, I'll put 2 or 3 of these emitter heads on a tree. And I'll put 1 of these on like a flower. And so I'll vary how many emitter heads each plant has. I'll try to determine how much it's going to need per week. And that's how I determine how many of these will be on each plant. So my typical 5 gallon shrub, I'll put 2. Mainly because if one clogs, I still have 1 more going. So it just gives me some fudge factor. Gardening is mainly about making mistakes and not having it die. So that's my goal. A flower, I'll just put 1 on because flowers are inexpensive and it doesn't matter as much. Trees, I'll put 2 or 3 of these emitters on and then run it longer. We'll go over how often, how long to run things. So we got soaker hose, dripping. Oh yeah, talk about the adjustable. That's
Okay,
good.
so different names. In my world, they always call them shrubblers. And so this is an adjustable. You can get them in fulls and halves and quarters and stuff, but most times most people are just going to use a full. These are great for pots. I mean, you can put these in a good sized pot. You can open this thing up. You can have a nice little fan of water and stuff that will cover a very good sized pot. This is a big whiskey barrel or something like that. You're going to use maybe 2 or 3 of them and stuff. They're great for that because you're just going to have usually just a few pots and stuff, and quick run of that particular cycle, and it's got everything watered and you're in good shape. It's when you try to use this for your whole landscape, you can run into trouble and stuff because you get so many of these things and you can adjust them down. This particular one will go from 1 to 35 gallons per hour and stuff. And so you can drown one area and then have a desert over on the other side of your yard and stuff, because they pull a lot of water, and if you're not careful, you will, devastate your system. And like I say, this is, they're great for pots and a few little flower bed areas and stuff, but just don't overuse them and stuff.
Yeah, don't use that for your whole system. Don't use adjustables for the whole system. Or you'll adjust over here and then the flow rate will change over here. You're always moving it. You want to regulate that pressure consistently throughout your whole system so you know what you're getting. This one, you'll take your main line, distribution line, the big tubing, get it close to the pots, close to raised beds, close to places where you want to use this. Then you'll poke this distribution, this is called spaghetti tubing. You poke that in, you'll run it up to the back side of the pot, and then you'll poke that in the soil, and then this is an adjustable head that he's got. So you just adjust it out. It's great that it keeps it in place and allows you to adjust for that container. I use these on my containers. It's great. It does, like a little bell-looking, fan-looking thing. Yeah.
It has its own little barb.
How many of the 2-gallon emitters do you have?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. How many 2-gallon per hour emitter heads? Not these. You're pretty limited on how many of those you can run.
Yeah.
But that other one, I keep throwing it back in the bin. I should do that. How many of these can you have on a system? Virtually unlimited. So you can have up to about 400 of these. It's a lot on a half-inch line per valve. So you can have more than that if you have more valves. So soaker hose, it's less. That's more of you're not having that much. It's mainly for a vegetable garden or herb gardens, that kind of stuff. That's 25-foot rows. You can go about 25 feet of spaghetti tubing out to put before you put an emitter head on the end of it. So you think 25 feet. After that, the pressure is so low at the end of that, you're not getting the right flow you need. You need to take the distribution line and get a little bit closer than 25 feet. So the distribution line takes it out in the yard and gets it close. This takes it right to the plant. Okay. Some of that depends on the grade you've got. If you've got a real steep grade, those numbers get shrunk down a little bit. But I've never actually maxed out a system with too many of these. Now the adjustables, like Richard was saying, if you start using a lot of adjustable heads, you don't want to do that. Now all of a sudden all the rules are out because every single plant is like this mystery. You don't know what kind of ratings you got. Okay?
So you wouldn't want to mix the pressure compensating element?
No.
You don't want to mix. You want to take a type of emitter head and be consistent with it. So now you know the variables with that. Oh, also I should put out there, you can have up to 500 foot of half-inch distribution line on a system. That's a lot. 500 feet will take you almost anywhere in your yard you need to go. And that's like over a football field of just a half-inch line per valve. So if you have several valves, now you can have 2,000 feet of distribution line going all over the place in the back.
Ken, I have a question. When our plants were planted originally, the emitters are placed relatively close to the plant.
Yeah.
So if you have a tree and maybe it's 10, 20 feet tall, should you encourage root growth by moving the emitters out over time?
What you take that.
Yeah, definitely.
So repeat the question just so
Okay.
it's on Facebook.
So he's asking if when you just get a landscape installed and the landscapers put, like 2 or 3 emitters and they're like right up against the trunk of the tree and stuff. Well, as the tree gets, sizable and growing, it's not feeding, its feeder roots are not up against the trunk. They're way out where the drip line of the tree is and stuff. So it would behoove you to reroute that system. You can even create like a circle loop and connect it in to where the lines are coming, and then put your emitters on that loop and stuff around the tree. And it's, most of their feeder roots that are pulling in moisture and nutrients and stuff are right under the drip, the very edges of the tree's limbs and stuff.
So a quick lesson here. This is a tree. I'm really good at Pictionary, believe me. This is a trunk. This is the tree. So, excuse me, my allergies are going nuts. But if I'm the trunk, these are the branches. This is called the drip line. So this is the drip line out here. At the very base of the tree are just anchor roots. Big, woody, strong. They have no ability to absorb water whatsoever. They're just there to keep the tree upright. As the tree grows, these branches come out, the roots will mirror the branch structure. So it's taking advantage of the shade, it's cooler underneath here. So as this branch comes out, the roots will grow out as well. So the roots will mirror the top growth. And the roots really only go down 1 foot, 2 feet. They do not, there is no anchor root here. There's no tap root. That's a myth, especially in the mountains of Arizona. The mountains, they'll just hit rock, boulder, caliche. They turn and they start running sideways. That's what the roots do. So even really ancient junipers, maybe the roots are 3 feet down, but they spread out like this. If you know that's how plants grow, let's move the emitter heads as the plant matures. We put the emitters right here to begin with because the plant was new. All the roots were right there. But as it grows, these roots are coming out. So we do want to maintain or tune up our system. What you do is you cut that off. And where's our cutter thing? Do we have that over there? So what you'll do, you'll take that and just cut off the current emitter. And I don't know if I can do this on the fly. What I'll do is I'll take a tee and I'll tee off. Let's see how quickly I can do this without boring people. So and I'll take typically, I'm gonna go about like that. So I'll go.
Well, irrigation's not a dry subject.
No. No irrigation jokes, oh my gosh. Now what I would do is I would tee off, and now I put an emitter, a new pressure company emitter out here, and I put that out towards, from here I put it right out here. I go about halfway, somewhere out here is where I put the new emitters, because this is where the feeder roots, we're very tiny haired, very thin, very white feeder roots. They're the ones that take in the fertilizer and the water. That's why when you fertilize, you don't want to fertilize here. You want to fertilize out here. And that's why when you read the fertilizer bag, you're like, oh my gosh, this big tree needs like 10 pounds of fertilizer? You gotta be kidding me. That's because you're doing this entire area of the landscape, because you're trying to get all the roots fertilized. We want to think the same way with your drip emitters. So some of you do need to take those stakes off. If this tree's got a trunk like this and the stakes are still on it, it hasn't needed stakes in 10 years. Break them off, throw them away, and then take that drip emitter and move it further out, and you'll have healthier plants. That'll really play out for you in drought season. So we're out of drought this year, but last year was a deep drought. So each year is different in the mountains of Arizona.
Why would you want your drip line out farther?
Why wouldn't you want your drip line out here?
You know, like in towards your tree, you know, that's around there. So
Yeah. So our question is, why wouldn't we want our drip emitters even further out? Drip systems are not made to keep, they're just a life support system. You've got the flu, you go in the emergency room, you got pneumonia, and you're about to die. What are the first thing they do is they put an IV in you to try to stabilize you, keep it going. This is just an IV, is all it is. It is not made to make your plants grow. Rain is what makes your plants grow. So you're just trying to get it through until the next storm, the next system. We get, on average, 100 years of data, we have 19 inches of rain in Prescott, Arizona. 19 inches. It's mathematical. Doesn't change. Now, the thing with averages, some years we get 24 inches. Other years we only get 15. But on average, we get 9. Your plants are kept alive by Mother Nature. What we're doing is we're the bridge that helps keep them going. And so I want to put it where the bulk of the roots are. I don't want to train the roots to go where these are, because I don't want the plants dependent on my drip system. I want them dependent on the rains. I just want to keep them alive. So I'll put it kind of halfway and a little bit further out. It's kind of a judgment call. You go, yeah, it's convenient here. Yeah, this is easy for me to put a drip system. Out there I'd see it more because the patio's there. Yeah, I don't want to do that. So there's some gut feel on this. It's not exact science.
doesn't that concentrate more roots rather than systems?
So doesn't it force more roots to grow around with that drip emitter? Possibly.
So wouldn't you want it up farther so you don't have tree tip over it?
This is just, my name's Ken. We're just friends. This is what I've done over the years. I don't know the exact science. I'm not a scientist measuring it, but you're more scientific than I am.
So if you're putting it out there right now, if you're putting them out further out there, the tree's not going to get to it. Then it'll wither away before it finally grows enough to get to where you're putting those emitters and stuff. So you're worried about the tree now, not next week and stuff.
Right. So you got to guess where are the roots underneath your tree? None of you know. I don't know. But I know they mirror this, so I want to put it where the bulk of the roots are. And about halfway, a little bit further out, that's about where you're going to go. And that's where you're going to fertilize. Okay? So, spaghetti tubing, soaker hose, thank you.
I think hanging baskets like
Yep.
around the rack. To use teas and spaghetti tubing.
So, good question. So, he's got hanging baskets. How would he use a drip system to use hanging baskets? I do this all day long. So I've got hanging baskets. I've got over 50 pots. We do, what I do is I'll take this, I'll run it up the drain spout or whatever. I'll kind of go over and wherever that hook is. I'll have it come down the chain that I'm hanging it from. And then I actually use, that one. I use that one. And I'll just stick it in the hanging pot. My spaghetti tubing's right there. And this is ugly, so I try to hide it as best I can. But I don't want to be a slave to water. I hate watering. Watering's like, I hate watering. So this is what computers were invented for, was to run irrigation. And so I use this and I try to hide this as best I can. So.
By 3 or 4 pints, do I use a tea or do I?
Oh, I would use, okay, now you got to think through how do I do that. I've got one spaghetti line per hanging basket. I don't go one spaghetti basket and try to get a whole eve done. But I might try it if it looked better. It's about looks. I might try it, run it, and see how it looked. Correct. Well, this one doesn't have a compensator, so you have to adjust it this way. But I would try it to see if I have enough pressure but if I didn't, it's real easy to go another line. So you have 2 lines. The flow of the water will tell you if you did it right. If at the end there's no water, you did it wrong. There's not enough pressure to get it all the way to the end. So, but the system will tell you. That's actually a good question. Very, very good.
If you're on, like if you have a big porch and stuff, you want to try to get at least a 1/2 inch line up above where all the baskets are, and then tie in above each one of them and come straight down into each particular basket and stuff.
I would say the same thing for a hill. If you're on a slope, don't run the lines. Let's say if you're like this. I don't know if you can get this on camera, Ken, or not, but my house, we're built on a slope. They cut it out, and here's my house, and here's a driveway coming in. I'm going on this huge slope. I got a beautiful view, but it's very difficult to have the plants down here happy and the plants up here. So if you're doing this, let's say you're doing erosion control. You're trying to, let's say this is no house, it's just solid riprap or a hill you're trying to hold in place. Here I would plant my plants. Let me see if I can get this where it's not as, if I can get this idea to you. What I would do is when I plant this, I would put my plants in like this. And I would run my drip system not vertically, but I would go horizontally across this way so that my pressure would be more true as I go across the hill. Don't go up and down with the drip system this way. When I run the drip to these plants, I'll actually put the drip emitter on the top side of this root ball so that it actually starts to water this root. So many folks want to dig out the side of this hill and create a flat spot and plant here. You don't need to do that with your drip system, and it looks funny. This looks more natural by taking the plant and actually planting the same angle as the hill, but then put that drip emitter on the top side of the root ball, and you'll water it just as well. Did I explain that concept very well? Okay, yeah, I did back there, okay.
No, I did, but I've only got one pump on my property.
Yeah.
I've got an 1.5 acres. And can you run more than one valve? We're back talking about the manifold and the valve question. And so it would be a hose thing. Can you run more than one valve off of a hose? I got it down to 30, under 30 tons of pressure, because it's like 120 tons of pressure without that. But it's under 30 tons of pressure, but can you run more than one valve off of a hose deal?
Oh, sure. See, what the concept is you have a clock and you have a manifold of valves, and only one is running at a time. And so it's watering over here, then it's watering over here, and each time it's a different valve, and it's, you know, doing either a grass lawn over here and some trees over here, or,
Is the
and
manifold hooked up to the hose thing? You can hook
the
up-
manifold, well,
Can you hook
I
the
mean,
manifold?
ideally,
It's a
you know, the
separate
hose bib is not your best source to start out. It's better to tie into the main line. Well, that
Right.
gets more technical on that, but it's better to tie into a good water source, not on a hose bib on the side of your house.
It comes in one water line, you need a water source.
Yeah.
Yours is the pump, that's fine.
Right.
Well housed.
Exactly.
Mine's tied in right at the water meter. This side of the water meter, I just went water meter, go into the house, I tied it right into that, and I come right off. That way I'm past the water softeners and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm running from that one tap, one line coming in. Now I've got 8 valves. And then each valve will do a different section of the yard. Makes sense? That's actually a very good question. So, yes.
How about trying to water grass?
Good, thank you. Water grass. So that's where the pop-ups and fan sprays go, right? So you want to cover that one. I've been doing a lot of lawns.
So what was your exact question on that?
Well, I have a patch of grass, but I don't have any way to water except for my hose manually. I'm trying to figure out how to, I don't know if you guys have the pieces that you need in order to install those.
Mostly we're running drip stuff here, but I mean, sprinklers is a different world than drip completely. And it's a matter of putting together a system that will water your grass efficiently and not waste a lot of water. And you try to run it, you know, as short a spurt as you know, so, and you got to get but nowadays there's so many adjustable ones with adjustable nozzles and stuff. You can widen the span and create, if you have any crazy style of design of grass and stuff, most people, you know, don't always have like a postage stamp type of lawn and stuff.
How many square feet is it?
Well, right now it's only 200, but I'm adding more to it.
So, I mean, it's a very good way to water your grass. I mean, the grass responds very well to a scheduled water application and stuff. You know, you know, you're not dragging hoses around. You got dead spot over here and got drowning over here and stuff. If you set up your system right, you know, in the beginning, you know, when get your heads all lined out the way you want it and stuff. I mean, it's a very good way to have a gorgeous lawn and stuff.
The easiest route, I mean, just for 200 square feet, it's so small. You could easily take a battery operated timer off the hose bib, run a hose with this regular garden hose out there, and put a whirly or a fan spray right in the middle, and the timer will have it come on and off. The worst thing you want to do is turn it on. I'll leave it for 30 minutes. You go off to church, you come back, and 5 hours later it's still going. You're like, oh my gosh,
On that note, I do want to say one thing that most people don't pay attention to. Sprinkler heads are not designed to be by themselves. They are designed to have an opposing head that sprays towards them as they are spraying outward. There's always an opposing head that covers the area where this sprinkler head was. And a lot of times if you have a square thing and you put a round sprinkler head, it does a round pattern every time. And you have corners that are all dry. You've got to take care of the corners, and you have to design the heads where they are shooting and touching the other head at all times.
But this is not a lawn. This is a drip system. Here's the thing I did. I pulled my lawn out when the kids left, went off to college. I didn't have the built-in lawnmower, folks, so I'm not gonna mow a lawn. I'm not gonna do that. That's a kid's job. That was my first job in Mid-Iowa, was mowing lawns for money. What I did is I pulled that out for a patio, and now it's a big entertainment patio, courtyard thing. But I do have a lawn. It's a time lawn. So it's creeping time. So then on the edges, what I did is I took this soaker hose, I have a main distribution line going to beside the patio, and I have these distribution lines coming off, and now I water my thyme lawn. I buried this about 1 inch underneath the ground, and I ran the system, and everywhere I saw a water spot, I plugged a piece of thyme plug. And so now I've got this beautiful thyme lawn, which is super low water use, evergreen, blooms in the spring. Animals don't eat it. The dogs like it. They smell good when they rummage in it. And so I've done that mainly for care, because I mow it once, twice a year instead of every week. That's another thing for a small lawn. You could direct bury soaker line. Yes.
So the solar line is just, there's no emitters put in it, it's just left the way it is with the open holes?
Here, I'll pass this around. You'll see
I see the holes,
yeah.
so, but you don't put emitters in it?
No, that is the emitter.
That is the
Let me
emitter.
do don't cut yourself. They can visualize that.
And then,
Or just pass it around.
so what is?
There's an emitter on the inside of this line.
On the inside?
Yes.
Pass it back.
So
You
you
can
don't
take
have
a
to
look
worry
at
about
it.
the dirt getting into it?
Just extra for my own
in this
system.
area?
That's right.
And then, are you just connecting it to a half-inch supply line? And if
Yes.
so, how are you, I mean, because I'm visualizing half-inch supply line with a T bringing package up to the raised bed and putting it stuff across the top, so we can bring the half-inch up, get off it.
Well, you could leave everything underground, and like he was saying, you could technically water your whole lawn with one of these.
Should be a half-inch piece of distribution. Just bring that distribution line over. Yeah. So your main line's going out. This is running against my patio. I'll take my
Your plant.
punch, and just punch it in. And then usually I like to put this into my drip spaghetti tubing before I'll put this in first, because now I've got a handle to push this into. And now that line goes out, however long I want it to be. And at the very end, I make a plug. I'll just plug it. And then that creates the back pressure. And now that emitter, however many soaker hose heads there are, all those will run 1 gallon per
And
hour.
you can put those every 6 inches
Up
on
to-
the, no, you could put those little soaker hoses about every 6 inches.
Yeah, I
on-
went every foot myself because I wanted 1 foot
Yeah,
grids
fine.
for my time lawn. That's what I did. But yeah, I've got 200, 300, 400 feet. I don't know how many feet, but that's how you do this specifically. Soakers or spaghetti tubing. That's how you do it. Put the emitter head into the spaghetti tubing first, because it's hard to grab. Sometimes these things are hard to get together. So another little secret is leave this out in the sun. Let it get soft before you start trying to. In my youth, man, I used to just let's do some more. Now I'm struggling, going, oh my gosh, how do I get this thing on
Your
there?
thumb just starts throbbing.
Oh. So the sun warming these things up, trying to get them on. Vaseline does not work. Tried it. Hair dryers don't work. Just leave it out in the sun. Just let it softens it up enough to get it all together. Okay. Okay. So Richard and I were going over how to set your clock. This will make sense in a second. So what I have is I've got 100 people here, and there's probably 20 different kinds of clocks in the same room. There's no way I can explain every single clock. Let me get the principle to you in concept. So some of you have one valve or one time. Some of you I've got 12 times. I've got 12 separate valves, 12 different, I've got a clock that can run 12 different clocks. It's commercial grade. Some of you most of you have six valves. So you've got however many valves, and usually it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll actually have a number on there. Then it'll have A, B, C. Most A, B maybe, or A, B, C. One of those two. Here's how I think it through. This is how it helps me program my clock. And you kind of need to be an expert on your clock. You need to know how to set this. You need to sit down on the internet, pull up your clock, and pull up the manual and read how to do this. Because you will need to change it. As the monsoons hit in July, you need to throttle that thing back. Because it doesn't need as much water. Because Mother Nature's taking care of you. But in May and June, it's hot and dry. You need the water more often. So here I broke down A, B, C. I tried to break down my system by how are things going to need to be watered. So generally I'll pick one of the letters and I'll go, that's gonna be my trees. That's gonna be my tree system. And so I'll put all my tree valves on the A system. So A will run all at the same time. Then B will be my pots, because I do a lot of pots, and C will be my flowers. Then for you it might be your vegetable garden, but just think through deep water, lots of cycles. I mean, pots need water every day, maybe twice a day. And then C is gonna be flower maybe once a week, twice a week. So I've got 3 different ways, cycles. How often does the thing need to run? Now I go through and I'm programming A. I want my trees to be watered once a week. So 1 time, 4 times, 3 times a week. This is per week. This is how long it's going to run. I want my trees on average to be watered once a week during the growing season. Growing season is April through October. And then I want it to run for 2 hours because I want that water pushed down to the ground a couple feet. So to run that system, so you're using a 2 gallon per hour emitter head, that means that one emitter head, so I've got 2 gallons, you might have 1 gallon per hour emitter heads, or half gallon. So, but I've got 2s, so if I run that emitter for 2 hours, that emitter has now distributed 4 gallons of water. Now all of a sudden I can regulate, oh, I need a 15 gallon tree, it needs 15 gallons of water per week. How many emitter heads do I need? I can quickly go, I need 3 or 4 emitter heads for that big tree. So I can now quickly backtrack on the math. How much water does it need? Most of you are not running your system long enough for your deep-rooted things. So you need to water on average about once a week. If you've got a brand new lawn and everything is just in, maybe you need it twice a week because all the roots are right here. So there I might run it with only 2 emitter heads, 2 hours twice. So now I've got, okay, for it's 80 gallon, okay, I can now do the math real quick. So that's trees. On my B section of the clock, I'm gonna run pots. I want my pots to water 4 times a week, so every other day or so. And then I want it to run for 15 minutes at a time. Again, I'm typically using this Shrubler adjustable head thing, so this has much greater flow rate than that little tiny drip emitter. So this one I don't have to run as long. And so I'm going to run that every other day about 15 minutes. Then I can play with it. Maybe it's 60 minutes. Maybe it's only 5 minutes when the monsoons are out. It's more humid. But I can play with that. Then my flowers, perennial beds, annual gardens, raised beds, that kind of stuff, I'm going to water 3 times a week, every 3rd day or so, for about 40 minutes. Because now I've typically got an emitter head at each plant out there in that flower bed. So that makes it, this is rough. It's not exact. I can't get exact with every single person, but if you think through, my trees need to be watered about once a week, 1, 2, 3, 4 hours at a time to get enough water on them. And my pots need far less because I'm using a different emitter head than my flowers are. Does that make sense? Now all the hands go up. Now pull the business card out that I gave you and look on the back of that business card. I want you to do me a favor. So on the front of our business card, you get the address, the logo, all that kind of stuff. Don't look at that. Look on the back, because the #1 question we get anywhere, I mean, I answer this question probably 10 times a day. How often should I water? So this is a great plan. How often should I water? And so we just put the water guide on the back of every card, okay? And plus, secretly, if you could help me out, I want my logo in every irrigation box in my county. So this is made to tape inside your irrigation boxes. You'll forget, when do I turn it on or off? Well, you can see April through October, right here, during the summer, the growing season, you're gonna water established plants once a week. That's trees and shrubs, roses, big rooted things once a week. For new plants, I have a lot of new plants in my yard. I'm a gardener. I own a garden center. I like to plant. I have a lot of new things. I'll water those things twice a week because they're just more dependent on me. For lawns, the lawn lady in the back, there we go, about twice a week. Especially if you're using the right kind of lawn seed mix. So a fescue mix, those are a little more tougher, more water efficient. Twice a week should be good. Try to give it a rest period. So no bluegrass, maybe it's 3 times a week. And then for herbs, veggies, that kind of stuff, There it's kind of a crapshoot. It depends on where you're at, but about every other day. That's how you water. That's meant to help you. Yes, we do water in the winter, most winters. This winter, I've hardly had to water. If from the new year on, it was just like we were covered in snow the whole time. But before that, it was dry as a bone. The year before, we lost, it was such a good year selling plants. We lost so many plants because there was zero water in the winter. And then it got cold, the plants got dry, then it got cold, it killed them. Just killed them. But if you water a couple times a month, established trees and shrubs in the winter, I mean, if we get a snowstorm, you can cut one of those back. But usually water at least once a month. If your system's shut down, you drained your backflow preventer, drag the hose out. Spot treat things and give them a hydration, because hydrated plants remain healthy through winter. Plants have a natural occurring antifreeze in them, and so if you keep that hydrated, they don't freeze solid. I know it's freezing outside, but they don't. They don't freeze. If they get dry, they do freeze and they die. So that's kind of what this is for. So take one of those. I've got more in the back for those of you that came in late. Be here early, but I love the folks that brought their own chairs. Well done. Well played. So anyway, that's that. I think.
So
Man, I didn't mean to go that long on
Ken?
boring stuff.
Carol has a question. She wants to know, how often do you water shrubs?
So shrubs are going to be just like. Here you go, Carol, right here. So you folks on Facebook, can you see the card right there? Come in and get one. I'll give one to you for free. But it's once a week for shrubs. Anything big rooted, shrubs, trees, berries, roses, they're deep rooted. Their roots are way down. Those things should be watered less often. With that, I got to cover 2 plants. Last question. Only because you haven't asked one yet.
How do I know how much water to put on the plant based on its size? For example, I've got some buddleias that are about 8 feet across.
There you go.
How do I know how many drip heads I need?
I can't show all these off, so let's just show off what's super unusual. Let's show off this. This is a rock rose. It's a 2-gallon bucket. This is going to need about 2 gallons of water per week. This is a 1-gallon bucket. That's going to need about 1 gallon of water per week. A 10-gallon tree is going to need about 10 gallons. A 15-gallon tree, guess how much it's going to need? 15 gallons. That'll help you figure out how much water that it's going to need per
I
week.
have my established trees that are, or shrubs that are 8 feet across. I have no idea how old they are. How much figure that out?
Yeah, there, I cannot answer that exactly. So he's got a big established butterfly bush.
Right.
Some of your landscapes are so established, the roots are all over the yard. That plant is probably being watered by an emitter head that's 3 plants over. It's got roots every place. You just want to get it close. Just keep it healthy. So there, I would probably put 3 emitter heads on a big bush, one over here, one over here, one over here, and just guesstimate, and I'd leave it on for a couple hours. And the way I know that it's happy, it's still blooming. Butterflies are all over it, and it's happy as could be. That's when I know that if it's starting to wilt and become obviously dry, I would add another emitter head or check my system to make sure the emitters have not clogged or something like that. So there's no exact science. This is a rock rose. This just came in. This is a native plant. Low water. This will be on that list I give you of plants that are the Amplify friendly plant list. This is on the list. Comes in pink, white, and this color. It's evergreen. It's about knee high, just mounding. Super low maintenance. Once you get this established, you probably take it and cut it off of all care. A lot of these natives, you put them on the drip system for a bit, and then you let them go on their own. Usually what I'll do is I'll take my drip emitter and I'll just bend it back and tape it off, so that if it ever needs me in the future, I'm a gardener. I want to nurture plants. I could be there for them in the future. I've never once unplugged an emitter head. They keep growing and thriving because it's a native, but if I need to, I could. And so that's another one here. This one, we're going to be famous this year for our manzanita. So we're going to have I've got 5 different varieties of manzanita. The wild ones, that's the evergreen that grows up, shrub like this, red bark, evergreen, that's this guy. So I would not put this on a drip system at all. I would water this by hand, spit on it. I mean, if you're gonna kill this, it'll be from overwatering. Trust me, I've killed 4 already myself. I thought I'd put on the drip system. I'm still experimenting. Now I've got one in the ground. I've watered it by hand just when I remember to. And it's happy as can be. This is a hardcore native zero-skate plant. Cacti are the same way. Succulents are the same way. Some plants don't deserve to be on your drip system. And then I'm going to leave you with this. You folks are the natives. Some of you bought your yard for that huge ponderosa or character pinyon pine, or some of you, your lots are defined by the specimen evergreens you have in your yard. Some of you are like clear cut and just moved over. I'm trying to start over. I'm talking to the folks that have a few key, very valuable ancient trees. You need to take care of those. They've been growing by themselves since the time of Columbus. But they didn't have homes built all over. There wasn't a heat island effect. We didn't have so many rooftops and asphalt, and things have warmed up. We've changed the water patterns, and these things are not on their own anymore. You've changed their environment. You need to protect them, or they're going to become bark beetle bait, scale. There's things that are going to go after anything that's stressed. You should take care of those. Whatever you do, do not put them on the drip system. That will overwater them. What I do recommend is fertilizing those ancient, the ones that are really protected. If you lose that huge 100-foot ponderosa tree, it's going to cost you $1,000 to get it cut down and drop it and move it, and then you just lost $1,000 or more of value, the true value, property value, when it dies. So you don't want to lose these. I would fertilize those once in the spring right now. Use the all-purpose plant food. Take care of them. Make sure they're healthy. And then I would water them once a month in April, May, and June. Just those months. That's the critical month. That's when the new growth is coming out. That's when it puts on its new tendrils. That's when it's that's also when it's the driest. It's bone dry here from this point through June. And then the monsoon rains come and all the pressure's off. And we're all celebrating because we see afternoon rains and the humidity goes up. But if you do that, water it 3 times, April, May, and June, fertilize it once in March, you will have glorious. I've seen bark beetle go down a street, kill every plant, except for the ones that little technique would work. And they're standing strong and alive. And I would encourage you to do that. If you do see some problems, like pinyon pine scale just came out. If you've got a big pinyon pine, you look at the needles, you see a little dot on the needle. That is a scale. Every one of those dots is a scale that's sucking the life out of that plant, and literally it will kill the plant. If you see that, you've got a pinyon pine, not all of you do it, but enough of you do, it's worth mentioning, you need to come talk to me. We make a product called Plant Protector that eliminates that. Something you'll do every year, but one application is good for the year. And with that, so I meant to cover so much more, but your rumps are getting stiff. One last question.
Is that
Scale mainly gets on pinyon pines. I've seen it transfer over to a few other things. Look for that. Start with your pinions, look for the dots. And if in doubt, come talk to us. I mean, Richard's a genius. I mean, he knows more than I'll ever. He puts it all together, makes it look good on a plan. He deals with architects. He talks a whole lingo I don't even understand. I like to talk Latin plant names. He talks irrigation mathematics and stuff. If you need design idea, boy, he's here all the time. So with that, I'll let you give it up for Richard. Okay. And you're hanging out here.